She wasn't just delivering food. She was delivering dignity, block by block. But in a town like Everston, being a young black woman on two wheels was enough to make enemies. And that slap, that wasn't just about breakfast. It was about control, and she shattered it. The sun in Everston didn't just shine, it stared. Heavy, slow, suspicious. A forgotten town tucked in the southern ridges of Missouri, where porch swings creaked more than folks spoke up, and everything felt like it hadn't moved since 1963, especially the mines. On Main Street, time stayed still. Garver's Tools, Dean's Pharmacy, Jesse's Grocery, and right in the middle, Nella's Place, a soul kitchen turned community landmark run by Miss Eloise Nella, a retired civil rights teacher with stories in her hands and truth in her cornbread. Behind the counter worked Aliah James, 29, with hands that moved like poetry and eyes that didn't miss a thing, not even ones that didn't meet hers. Her delivery bag was already packed. Fried okra, baked catfish, cornbread, peach pie, soul meals, comfort for folks who sometimes forgot who cooked it. Careful on East Ridge, Miss Nella warned, sliding a folded note into the strap of Aliah's bike. Why? Because I heard some ghosts have started walking again. Aliah gave a half smile, but in Everston, that could mean anything. Cops, meth heads, or bikers with Confederate patches. Aliah pushed her bike out the back alley. No car. Not that she didn't have a license. Just too many eyes followed her when she drove. But no one looked twice at the girl on the bike, did they? Not unless they wanted to remind her where she stood. She took off down Crenshaw Road, steady pace, bag tight, head high. The white folks in Everston didn't always speak, but they sure stared. And the black folks? They nodded, that quiet kind of nod, the one that says, "We see you, sis, keep moving." On her left, the old Everston mill loomed, boarded up, burned at the edges. On her right, 3 Harleys parked outside a rundown bar called the Wolf's Fong. Loud engines, louder stares. Confederate flag draped over a broken fence, like a dare. As she passed, one biker, big, bearded, skin like boiled ham, spit in the dirt and chuckled to his friend. Look at that delivery girl. Bet she don't even know her place. Aliah didn't flinch, didn't slow, but her fists tightened around the handlebars. Aliah's next stop was the Lawson farm, out past the creek bend. Just an old white couple who paid in cash and always left a tip, didn't ask questions, didn't offer comments either. As she turned onto Ridgeway Lane, the heat wrapped tighter. Her shirt clung to her back. The pine trees whispered something she couldn't hear, but could feel. She was halfway there when it happened. The road curved, and they were waiting. 3 bikers, the same ones from the bar, this time not lounging. They blocked the road, shoulder to shoulder, leather vests marked with a patch that read Southern Order. Not a real club, just a hate group pretending to be something else. The biggest one, Brock, stepped forward. "Hey, Lou, Miss UPS," he sneered. "You missed a stop." Aliah slowed but didn't stop. "Move." He laughed. "Say please." The other 2 chuckled behind him, standing like oak trees carved from prison time. Aliah stood tall on her pedals. "You got 5 seconds." Brock stepped closer, grabbed the front wheel of her bike, and with a smack of his palm, shoved it sideways. She stumbled, caught herself, balanced. That's when he slapped her, hard, right cheek, in broad daylight. The sound echoed through the trees like a gunshot wrapped in hate. "You uppity little," he started, but she didn't hear the rest. Her body moved on its own. No fear, no hesitation. She let the bag drop. 1 step in. Kicked the side of his knee with her boot. Crack. Brock went down screaming, but she wasn't done. She grabbed his vest, yanked his head down, and slammed her elbow across his nose. Blood sprayed like a red flag ripping in the air. The second man lunged, too slow. Aliah grabbed the hot coffee thermos from her bag and smashed it against his temple. He dropped. The third one backed up, hands raised. "Damn, girl, we was just playing." Aliah stared at him, her lip bleeding, hands trembling from adrenaline. "No, you weren't." She got back on her bike. Blood on her shirt, dirt on her hands. But her eyes burned with fire they didn't see coming. Police Scarlight witnesses? 1. Old black man in a pickup down the hill. He didn't say a word, just tipped his hat as she passed. That night, Everston buzzed. Not because the sheriff came. He didn't. Not because the hospital reported 3 white men injured. They didn't check in. But because something shifted. Something cracked in the old wooden bones of that town. A black girl hit back, and the town saw it. Next morning, Everston felt different. The air wasn't heavy. It was waiting. At Nella's place, the silence was louder than the gospel music humming from the old jukebox. Miss Eloise stood by the window, staring out like she'd seen this movie before and didn't like how it ended. Aliah walked in, her face bruised but lifted. She headed straight for the sink to wash the dried blood off her knuckles. Miss Eloise didn't ask. She just said, "I told you East Ridge got ghosts." Aliah nodded. I didn't flinch. Eloise's mouth twitched, proud, worried, exhausted. "I know, baby, but this town don't like when we don't flinch." By noon, the pushback began. Sheriff Maddox, a pale, aging man with a limp and a chip on his shoulder, showed up at the cafe. Didn't ask if Aliah was okay. Didn't ask what happened. He pulled out his pad and said, "Got a report of an assault. 3 men claim you attacked them. Say you ambushed them for no reason." Miss Eloise slammed her cane on the counter. "They jumped her, Billy. One of them left a bruise shaped like the South on her face." Maddox shrugged, didn't look up. "They got bruises, too. Broken nose. Busted ribs. Real bad. One of them's daddy's on city council." He looked at Aliah for the first time. "You're on thin ice, girl." Girl. She didn't speak. Not because she couldn't, but because she knew what silence could say better than any words. That night, the whispers grew teeth. Someone threw a brick through the back window of Nella's place. No note, just glass and rage. Someone posted a photo of Aliah on a local Facebook group titled, "Protect Our Town." Caption, "Who does she think she is?" She started getting stares. Not just from the bikers, but from the folks she delivered pie and peach tea to every day. Mrs. Caldwell didn't open her door. Mr. Darnell forgot to tip. Pastor Glenn asked if she could apologize just to smooth things over. As if dignity was a dish she could serve warm and walk away from. One customer told her, "You should have let it go. Ain't worth all this. You just made it worse for yourself." Aliah smiled, tight-lipped. "I didn't make it worse. I made it visible." But behind the silence, others were watching. The old black men on porches. The immigrant kid sweeping outside the gas station. The high school girl with the hijab who never spoke in class. They all saw. Something in Aliah had shifted the balance. Even the wind felt different. The next morning, Aliah's routine felt hollow. She still strapped on her delivery bag. Still packed meals with care. Still smiled at the elders who didn't return it anymore. But her back was straighter now. Not defiant. Just done with shrinking. AT 10:07 a.m. She got a call from Miss Eloise. "Baby, don't come back to the cafe right now." "Why not?" "Sheriff's in here, and he's not alone." Everston Sheriff Station was 3 blocks wide and 2 generations behind. Inside, a crowd had gathered. The same concerned citizens who'd ignored every racist joke, every slur, every Confederate flag. Now they wanted answers. Not from the bikers, but from her. "She's a danger," one woman hissed. Snapped for no reason. "She's militant," another man added. One of them angry types. Even the mayor, Gerald Myers, a bland man in a red tie who only visited the black side of town during elections, leaned forward. "Look, Aliah's always been respectful, but maybe she let the headlines get to her. Maybe she brought outside problems into Everston." The phrase rang in the air like a dog whistle. Outside problems. As if racism didn't already rent a house on every street in that town. That afternoon, she got a letter. Suspended from Nella's place until the situation could be reviewed. Miss Eloise cried when she handed it over. "I had to, baby. Code enforcement came by. Health department, too. They're crawling up my permits." "I know," Aliah whispered. "They're trying to choke you through me." Miss Eloise gripped her wrist. "You got fire in you, girl. but they got gasoline. Be careful. By sunset, the wolves came back. Same 3 bikers, patched up but grinning, standing outside the courthouse during a community board meeting. One of them spit on her bike tire. Another whispered, "Told you what happens when you swing above your weight." No one stopped them. No one said a thing. But then, Frankie, a 9-year-old black boy from the trailer park, ran up beside Aliah, held her hand, said, "You were brave. I saw it. My mama said you're a soldier." That's when she broke, not from fear, from knowing someone needed her to keep going. That night, the sky over Everston cracked with thunder, not from clouds, but from reckoning. Aliah sat alone in the back booth of a 24-hour laundromat, her delivery bag beside her, untouched. Rain tapped the roof like a warning. Everywhere else in town was quiet. Too quiet. But something was about to erupt. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She didn't answer that IT buzz again. Same number. Same silence. Then a message popped up. "Better leave town before the fire starts. You got till midnight." No name. Just fear wrapped in digital ink. At 11:23 p.m., her bike was stolen. At 11:31 p.m., a brick with her name on it landed through her mama's window. At 11:45 p.m., a fire started behind Nella's place. But it didn't spread, because someone was already there with a hose. Frankie's uncle, a quiet mechanic with fire in his blood and justice in his hands. Then more showed up. Miss Eloise in her nightgown, holding a flashlight and a bat. Old Mr. Deschamps with a wet rag on his shoulder. Fatima from the gas station, her phone filming the crowd already gathering. They stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the cafe. Not loud, not angry, just done being quiet by midnight. The whole town had come out, not just the usuals, not just black folk, but Latinos, Asian families, a few white folks too, the kind who'd always stayed neutral, because it was easier. Now their fence was burning, literally, because the bikers lit a second fire, this time behind City Hall, trying to send a message. But this time they were seen. Sheriff Maddox stood across the street, frozen, saw the flames, saw the faces, did nothing, until Aliah stepped beside him. "You gonna let them burn down the town? Or are you just here to watch me burn?" The word stung like vinegar in an open wound. Maddox looked at her, looked at the fire, then turned his back. That's when everything broke open to scream from the mayor's office. Windows shattering, tires screeching, and the bikers? They didn't run. They charged. 3 of them rode straight through crowd, trying to scatter them like sheep. But Everston didn't scatter. It stood. Someone threw a trash can into one biker's path. He swerved, crashed, and hit the pavement hard. The others panicked, circling back. And standing in their way, Aliah, blood on her lip, ash on her jeans, feet planted like oak roots in red clay. She held no weapon, just truth. "You don't own this town," she said. "You never did." Deafening pause. Rain starting to fall. Then someone else stepped forward. Frankie's mom. Then Doc Singh, the retired pediatrician. Then Marcus, the night janitor from the courthouse. And then even Sheriff Maddox finally stepped up. "Enough," he said. "Put your hands on another citizen in my town, and I swear you'll be behind bars for dawn." No badge ever looked smaller than it did in his shaking hand. But for once, it pointed in the right direction. The bikers didn't fight. Not this time. Too many phones filming. Too many eyes watching. Too many people remembering how silence ends when courage begins. Sunrise came with sirens. State troopers. News vans. Federal agents. The fire behind City Hall? Caught on security cams. The threats to Aliah? Traced. Documented. Broadcasted. By noon, 3 members of the Southern Order were arrested. And by the next day, Sheriff Maddox announced his resignation. But none of that was the real victory. The real victory was what in Bern. The cafe still stood. The mural behind Nella's place, the one with the raised fist and the quote from Baldwin, untouched. And Aliah? She walked into the cafe the next morning, apron tied, face tired but undefeated. Eloise looked up and smiled. "You back?" Aliah nodded. "Delivery's not finished." For weeks, Everston held its breath, not in fear, but in realization. What happened that night didn't just shake buildings. It shook people awake. Gone were the days of pretending the rot wasn't there. Because when a town watches a black woman stand up and survive, it runs out excuses to stay silent. At Nella's place, business tripled. Not just for the food, but for her. Aliah wasn't just a delivery girl anymore. She was a symbol, a story whispered in classrooms, over barbershop clippers, and through church pews. Kids started biking past the cafes slow, like they wanted to catch a glimpse of the girl who didn't flinch. Old men nodded at her with a different kind of respect now. Not pity, not curiosity, but recognition. The mayor? Gone. Resigned 2 weeks later for family reasons. The bikers? Facing federal charges. 2 already flipped, singing about others. Maddox? He never spoke to press. Just moved out of town with his tail tucked under a badge no longer pinned. But the most important shift? Policy. The town council, now under pressure in public eyes, passed a local equity protection ordinance. Independent oversight for police. Grants for minority-owned businesses. Mental health support for racially motivated trauma victims. One by one, the boarded-up windows came down. Murals went up to a new painting appeared behind Nella's. Aliah on her bike, bag over shoulder, face forward, with storm clouds behind her and sunlight ahead. Underneath, in bold letters, she delivered more than food. But not everything was healed. There were still stares, still tight lips when she walked past, still parents who told their kids not to get involved. Yet even they knew Everston had been marked. By truth, by resistance, by the courage of a woman they tried to erase, and failed. Aliah never asked to be a symbol. She just didn't want to be a victim. And somehow, that was enough to change the temperature of a town built on cold shoulders. There are towns like Everston all over the map, places with smiling faces and sealed mouths, where racism doesn't wear hoods. It wears name tags, sits on church boards, and hands out candy at parades. Places where justice isn't denied, it's just delayed so long, people forget what it looks like. But not anymore. Not here. Because one girl refused to flinch. Aliah didn't write speeches, didn't lead marches. She rode a bicycle. She carried plates of food, and she carried the burden of being seen, but never acknowledged, until they tried to erase her, and she pushed back. Now, kids say her name with fire in their throats. Teachers tell her story during Black History Month, not from a book, but from home. And if you ever pass through Everston, you'll see her mural right off Main Street, a girl with tired eyes and steel in her spine, riding into the storm. Some say the town changed because the law got involved. Others say it changed because the press showed up. But the truth, it changed because one woman didn't lower her eyes. Not when they slapped her, not when they threatened her, not when the system tried to bury her beneath paperwork, whispers, and polite racism. She looked up, and everyone saw themselves. In the mirror she held, some folks found shame, others found courage. But no one walked away unchanged, and Aliah, she still delivers. Not just meals, but reminders that silence isn't peace, that dignity isn't negotiable, and that some fires don't burn down towns, they burn through lies.